been a few months since Karina went to have her say at the council. Not for the want of trying though. In May, it was the elections. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't the elections. They were cancelled without our consent, weren't they? Then in June, Karina asked to speak at the full council meeting, but this request was denied due to the fact that it was an extraordinary meeting to discuss the Tendring and Colchester border garden community, a project that was voted through despite there being a complete lack of investment for crucial road funding. Karina's request to speak at the full council meeting, which was held on the 16th of July, was eventually accepted. I'll elaborate on that as we go through the video. For those who are not aware of what happened when Karina last visited the council, you may wish to have a little look at our video, We Should Not Be Funding You. And now over to Karina at full council on the 16th of July.
Good evening. Thank you to the local planning committee members who voted against putting out an incomplete local plan for public consultation, honouring the decision 3 months prior. This vote prioritises infrastructure readiness over hasty consultation, reflecting good sense. The MP of Colchester called the decision appalling. I invite her, or Councillors Aleki Akinyemi, Councillor Kirby-Taylor, Councillor Small and Councillor Young to explain their support for a plan with evident public health risks. The Bill of Rights limits Parliament's power. It states Parliament cannot do anything to prejudice the people. If legislation allows harm to people, it's rendered unlawful. At Cabinet in April, I raised concerns about public harms from government's response to COVID and the lack of safeguards against political agendas. Councillor King was dismissive. He stated that if anybody was to listen to the points I was trying to make, they would think that it's not true. This reflects unethical manipulation of public perception, not factual inaccuracy. Lord Frost's COVID inquiry testimony confirmed governments as primary sources of disinformation. I've repeatedly provided evidence to Colchester Council of serious harms, including fraud and malfeasance in public office, permitted by successive governments within our corrupted system. My Have Your Say contributions are not mere opinions, but attempt to highlight the Council's complicity in these issues. Despite providing evidence counter to government agendas, the Council has not deviated from them, ignoring its obligation to weigh evidence impartially. Council has been informed of the Machiavellian strategies employed by the net zero zealots, yet has seemingly worked to prevent the opportunity of open debate or opposing evidence being presented by relevantly credentialed experts. Councillor King has quoted organisations saying 5G is safe, when none of these organisations have actually said it's safe. After having been provided new evidence of 5G harms and invited to pause to consider, not one member of Cabinet raised their hand. The Council is not functioning as it is obligated to prevent public harm. Within the current institutional framework, councillors are not able to operate under the Nolan principles of public office. Would I be correct in thinking the only way to get government agendas quashed is by legal challenge? A court case last year ruled that it was necessary for Council to consider health harms caused by 5G when making planning decisions. Council should be giving way to the safety of individuals in cases where someone has a pacemaker or hip replacement, for example, who aren't covered under the ICNIRP guidelines. This year, after the Council in question appealed, that decision was upheld by the High Court. Councillors need to be aware that they will be held accountable in their personal capacity for any harms caused by approving 5G masts. Thank you.
Karina is addressing full council with really serious issues, and it's rather concerning that there are councillors that have been on the phone, one in particular, constantly for the whole of Karina's speech. That was Councillor Jocelyn Law, who was recently appointed as a member of the Cabinet and is the portfolio holder for Communities and Public Protection. She also happens to be one of Karina's ward councillors. However, Karina should not take things personally, as Councillor Law remained glued to her phone whilst the leader of the council was giving his response. Mayor Lilly, I know that before that you have mentioned that you are a Council Watch viewer. Is this really acceptable? Before going to the leader of the council, I just want to show a quick clip of Swansea Council. It's good to see that there are some councillors who are taking notice of what happened in Cheltenham with regard to the High Court case.
Councillor Chris Evans, please. Supplementary on this one is there's recently been a High Court decision in the Cardiff High Court, Thomas versus Cheltenham District Council. It's since also been upheld by the Court of Appeal. The decision in that High Court case directly contradicts the Welsh Government's planning guidance. So we're in a position whereby either we can follow the High Court or we can continue to follow the Welsh Government guidance. If we follow the Welsh Government guidance, that's going to open up illegal liability for the council that could run into hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds. So what are we doing to minimise this liability, or to shift it back to Welsh Government, who still haven't changed their fraud guidance?
And now to Councillor King's response. Unfortunately, we could hardly hear what Councillor King had to say. The council website audio was terrible. We have done our best to try and work out what Councillor King actually said, but apologise if the subtitles are not 100% correct.
Karina, coming to exercise your right. We talked about that last time, didn't we? Your right, despite us being a despotic council, to have your say in any form you like.
Despite it being a despotic council, so he's agreeing with the term, is he?
Let me just pick up a few of the points you've made. First of all, something you might consider positive. I haven't seen it yet. I can take a judgment there. But you might recall, did say that given the exchanges around 5G and safety, that we would secure independent advice. I understand that that's either due or with us soon. That might be helpful and we'll share it.
So with regard to the independent advice, Councillor King has just said, I haven't seen it yet. It's either due or with us soon.
And if it's clear enough, we'll take into account in our practice. And let me just go to the heart of your remarks as I heard them, which is we feel that you're not being listened to, and it sounds like you feel like you're being dismissed. I hope my remarks today might help just this last moment, but I have to sort of say, when I glance at some of the remarks you've made today, suggestions of fraud, presence in public office, and I happened by sheer accident to come across your remarks to the last full council, which said that we were, and what we were doing, acting as a Trojan horse.
Perhaps Councillor King might also like to have a little look at this video.
This is in the context of carbon, but this carbon net carbon behaviours of restrictions, talk about restrictions on civil liberties that we were introducing. None of that is true.
I think I just have to pause it there for a minute. For those of you who have followed Council Watch for a little while, you will know that any of Karina, Rachel, Cheryl or anybody else's speeches are followed up with videos that show evidence and factual information. In view of what happened at the Cabinet meeting on the 9th of April, an email was sent to the monitoring officer, Andrew Weavers, and copied to every councillor and the Chief Executive and the Deputy Chief Executive. A response is still awaited, so who monitors the monitoring officer? That's what we'd like to know. And they were all subsequently sent the link to watch the Mark Sharman film made by Oracle Films entitled The Agenda, Their Vision, Your Future. So what exactly isn't true, Councillor King? That's what we'd like to know. And back to the meeting.
So, with respect, and I mean it, I have to ask you to accept that we may disagree on a variety of different things, and we're entitled to do that. That's the office we have in function that we have. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Would you like to respond?
Being told I exercise my right to free speech because I live in a country that allows it requires two corrections. Firstly, speech freedom is an attitude of mind. I exercise free expression because it's my divine right, and because my mind and actions are ungovernable by those who suggest I require permission.
What was it Councillor King said earlier?
Karina, coming to exercise your right. We talked about that last time, didn't we? Your right, despite us being a despotic council, to have your say in any form you like.
Well, it's good to hear Councillor King say all that, but that's not actually what happened. What happened was Carina submitted her speech for consideration. Then Carina received a response from Richard Clifford, the Democratic Services Manager, telling her that We consider the allegation that Councillor King made a false statement falls within the definition of inappropriate as defined in Council Procedure Rule 12, and we would invite you to review that and resubmit a revised statement. He then stated Council Procedures Rule 12. Karina submitted a revised speech and then received confirmation that the revision was accepted, and Karina sent a brief final email in response. So what do you all think about that? Who is supposed to be working for who here? Jacob Rees-Mogg got it right, didn't he?
Sovereignty comes from the people to Parliament. It does not come to Parliament out of a void. If Parliament tries to challenge the people, this stretches the elastic of our Constitution near to breaking point. We should recognise that the people are our masters and show us to be their lieges and servants, not to place ourselves in the position of their overlords.
Karina mentioned the Bill of Rights, and we should remember what Betty Boothroyd said on the 21st of July 1993 when she issued a reminder to the courts. Within her statement she said, "There has of course been no amendment to the Bill of Rights. The House is entitled to expect that the Bill of Rights will be fully respected by all those appearing before the courts." We must also not forget how human rights are set out in the European Convention on Human Rights. Now back to Karina.
Secondly, we live within a corporate controlled world. Political correctness uses fear of judgment to apply social pressure to encourage inhibition of self-expression. If you resist that, the censorship industrial complex is there for backup, as we see. Beloved David Bellamy, after suggesting man-made global warming is poppycock, a problem that doesn't actually exist, which no amount of tax will do anything to change, the work dried up. His opinion was not allowed to be available to the public. Censorship does occur, as we have seen both in full council, and I postulate that the reason why the gentleman was shut down is because he was highlighting and bringing evidence to the malfeasance in public office through the way in which the council is behaving. Thank you.
So let's see what happens next. There's lots going on behind the scenes. There's just a few more bits I'd like to go through. With regard to 5G, do you think the councillors really understand what it's all about? This is a clip from a meeting that took place on the 29th of October last year. It's the Governance and Audit Committee meeting, and the leader of the Conservative group, Councillor Paul Dundas, is posing questions to the directors of one of Colchester Council's corporate companies.
So it's a town deal funded initiative working with the museum service. So we have tendered and awarded the contract for the build of the 5G network at key heritage points around the city, and then we work with the museum service to develop the content, conscious of it becoming a sustainable and viable product, and that work will happen over the coming year.
Thank you. Councillor Dundas.
Yeah, just very briefly, the 5G, the private 5G network, could you perhaps expand or explain exactly a little bit how that works and what it is? I take it by 5G, we're talking a wireless network. That's usually what people think of as 5G. So firstly, what is substantially different between that and the already commercially available systems, which we can get on our phones and routers and all the rest of it? And who are the actual customers for that? And how are they utilising it? I just wonder if you could just explain the rationale behind the commercial and beneficial nature of it.
Okay, I'm not going to pretend to be a technical expert. We have that in the team, and certainly I think we could provide a greater technical answer to you, and happy to take that away and provide it. I think, so the customers of it will be people that subscribe to the service through the museum service to get the virtual reality experience. For example, at all the various, at the castle itself, the Roman gates, so they could, understand and experience what it was like in those times. So that will be a service that people subscribe to, as visitors to the city.
Yeah, I think one of the problems is I think it's the way it's described. It's actually a really difficult sell to the public at the moment as to why we're spending money on it, why we're spending town deal money on it, because the average person in the street will say, hang on, the council's spending a load of money on 5G. I've got a 5G phone. Why are they, I get it with 3 and O2, why are they spending public money on a 5G network? So I think when we explain it, I just don't think it is connecting with people at all. It's not really connecting with me, to be honest. I'm never really quite worked out what the benefit of it is. So I just think we need to work much harder on explaining why as a council we're developing a 5G network when you've already got 4 in the city.
Thank you. Simon?
Yes, so we'll pick up that question. It's a really good question, and we'll pick it up in terms of explaining the commercial value. So we'll take that away as an action. Thank you.
Doesn't it just fill you with confidence? Explaining the commercial value. What about the rest of it? The graphic showing their plans stated that it provides solid commercial opportunities for Colchester City Council. Is that all they're interested in, not the health and well-being of the public? The council put out a tender and have awarded a contract. And if councillors are not aware of what 5G and the Internet of Things is all about, then they need to do their research. There have been audit delays at Colchester, but around the country things are coming out which are very interesting. Here's a little sample. Councils that are spending more of their revenue on pensions. One council that's in financial trouble signing off a payment of £230,000 to a chief executive in a secret meeting. And what about the Kent County Council leader who lost his seat, as did his entire cabinet? That's what you get for cancelling elections without the public consent and putting it forward for a devolution that the people do not want. Devolution in name only. Reform wasted no time looking at the council's books, and what did they find? Zia Youssef has put out a tweet setting out some of what they found. Probably there's a lot more since then. Councillor King, in his response to Karina, stated, "It's just not true. If only that was the case." This was on the 19th of July 2021, on what Boris Johnson classed as Freedom Day. We were actually standing right there on the 19th of July when we heard that Boris Johnson had made another statement. This is a part of what he had to say.
By the end of September, when all over 18s will have had their chance to be double jabbed, we're planning to make full vaccination the condition of entry to nightclubs and other venues where large crowds gather. Proof of a negative test will no longer be enough. Now, let me stress, we want people to be able to take back their freedoms as they can today.
Our freedoms are not something to be given and taken away. Our freedoms are our God-given right. Many of us have had different light bulb moments over these past few years especially. I'd just like to share one of mine. At the beginning of 2020, we used to watch the television and the news. On the news one morning, we saw a hospital report from a ward in Italy. Shortly after, we changed channels and saw on Sky, actually, a different news report from a hospital in New York. The strange thing was, it was the same hospital ward. Some months after, I discovered that people had noticed this in many countries around the world. Very recently, I discovered that there is a way that you can check pictures that have been used multiple times, and so I decided to look at one of these hospital wards. Lots of information came up, but one of the first things was about an interview with the Mayor of New York. It also showed a news report showing one of the hospital wards. The videos can be found on YouTube if anybody wants to watch them, but I warn you that the fear pushing was off the scale. In the US, they apologised, but continued to use the Italian footage. So, do you remember what Councillor King asked of Karina?
So, with respect, and I mean it, we have to, I have to ask you to accept that we may disagree on a variety of different things, and we're entitled to do that. That's the office we have in front of you.
Well, he can ask, but what do you think? I think we should end on a bit of a positive note. There have been a lot of good results in the courts. The one with the council that they may have to pay back £1 million of fines. That's good news. There is the ongoing court case against TfL with regard to the cameras, what's actually inside them. And there are so many wonderful people out there, too many to mention. Ex-doctors, surgeons, a brilliant ex-midwife, single mums, and so many amazing people who are learning the law, standing up for their rights and challenging the system. There's a lot going on right now, isn't there? Please let us have your comments and thoughts below, as usual. Thank you.